Welcome to the Bama Elite on Touchdown Alabama's YouTube channel. As always, I'm Justin Smith, the Director of Recruiting and Managing Editor here at Touchdown Alabama. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, subscribe to the notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. Today, I'm joined by Matthew Mason, one of our team reporters and contributors here at Touchdown Alabama. And Matthew, we have a big game coming up this weekend, and I don't think I probably have ever said that. We're talking about Alabama and Vanderbilt. But the Crimson Tide will welcome the Commodores on Saban Field in Bryant-Denny Stadium for a top 25 matchup. And a lot of people are talking about Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt is this team that has emerged as one of the better teams in college football, led by Diego Pavia, the transfer, who is basically taking college football a little bit by storm, because some would say he's probably the best, has played the best in terms of a quarterback in college football this season. He's in that conversation. Of course, there's other guys in that conversation. Ty Simpson put himself in that conversation after the Crimson Tide defeated the Georgia Bulldogs. But to kick off this show, I'm going to throw it to you, Matthew, and I'm going to just get your thoughts, your initial thoughts, I guess, about this matchup. Just what are your thoughts about the matchup in general?
I think we're starting to find out that there's a little bit of a trend in college football when you're a team that has kind of been down and out for a while. What you need to do is, if you don't already have a good quarterback, you go hit the portal. And then not only do you hit the portal for a quarterback, you bring his offensive coordinator that he had at that previous stop with him. And that's what Vanderbilt has done. That's what we're seeing Oklahoma do. And Oklahoma's a top 10 team. I think it's a trend, especially, bringing, I believe Tim Beck brought him with Pavia from New Mexico State to Vanderbilt. And it just seems like one of those combos that is just a match made in heaven. And especially with like Kane Womack saying now that he believes that Pavia is becoming an elite quarterback, that really opens up a lot more of what you can do in the passing game, because they got what they need to run the football, to do the trickery, the misdirection. It's just that, can they really just air it out at will and I think they probably can. It's just, the question is, are they going to be able to do that against Alabama? Because Alabama is kind of getting pretty stout lately.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing that you're talking about, because Pavia is going to be a huge emphasis on this game when it comes to the Crimson Tide's defense. But before we move further in the show, this show today is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Be sure to download the Underdog Fantasy app in the Apple App Store. If you have an Apple device, if you have an Android device, be sure to download the app in the Google Play Store. You download that app, make your deposit, and use the promo code TD Alabama. You play $5, you get another $50 in bonus funds, so you guys can earn money off of your football knowledge. So be sure to download the Underdog Fantasy app in the Apple App Store and Google Play Store as well. And we're going to give you guys a couple of projections here when it comes to the Alabama Crimson Tide taking on the Vanderbilt Commodores. We're going to go with mine first. One of the projections that I am taking is Jay Miller, 1.5 receptions. He's a guy who the Crimson Tide like to give the football when he's coming out of the backfield in a lot of different ways. Of course, on carries, he's a guy who's involved in the passing game as well. Kevin Riley is on the Underdog Fantasy app as well, the Crimson Tide second running back behind Miller. He's at 1.5 receptions. He's another guy I probably would take higher on too if I was looking at the Crimson Tide and the Vanderbilt Commodores game. But another projection that I would go with higher on is Ryan Williams, 4.5 receptions. I know he's struggling to catch a football, but Ty Simpson has shown that he's going to target Ryan Williams a lot in every game that he plays in. And I think Ryan will be able to right the ship. He's going to be able to pull in some passes because he's going to get so many. That's the thing about it. 4.5 is way below kind of like what he's going to get targeted. I think most people kind of like put his targets at like 8 to 10 per game. So yeah, I think he can get around 5 in this matchup, at least 5 in this matchup. So you guys can use that projection over on the Underdog Fantasy app. You can go with yours now, Matthew.
The fantasy points worked out great with Jeremy Bernard, especially when you have Ryan Grubb opening up the bag. I mean, we talked about the creativity that he has, and then so higher on 12.25 fantasy points for Jeremy Bernard. He even completed a pass. I mean, you got him completing a pass, you got him motioning, you got him turning up field even when he doesn't have blocks and still finding a way to nearly get a first down no matter what. It's that type of that utility player, the heart of Jeremy Bernard. And Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt quarterback, I'm going to take higher on 206.5 passing yards. I looked at the box score for last year's matchup between Vandy and Alabama, and we always think about it just felt like they just dominated him. It's just smash mouth type of game. But he finished with 252. And of course, when you do a shovel pass or do anything like this in front of you, that counts for those type of yards. So I feel like they're kind of almost disrespecting Pavia a little bit with this. I feel like it should be a little bit higher to start with. But hey, you know what? Add that to your lineup. Go higher on 206.5 for Pavia passing yards.
Yeah, for sure. Those are all great picks by you, Matthew. Be sure to download the Underdog Fantasy app in the Apple App Store and Google Play Store as well. Again, play $5, get $50 in bonus funds by using the promo code TD Alabama. So use your Alabama football knowledge to get paid on this weekend. But diving back into our discussion of this matchup, and like you said earlier, Womack has called Pavia an elite quarterback right now. And if you watch this Vanderbilt offense, it does have that similarity from last year in terms of them being creative, being the read options, all of these different shuffle passes. And a lot of Alabama fans are probably tired of seeing it because they've probably seen it every week since Alabama lost to Vanderbilt in Nashville, and Kane Womack defense looked like they did not know what was going on when Pavia hit them during that 40-35 win on last season. So they still have that. And if they didn't have that, they better put it back in their offense on this week, because obviously Alabama still has problems when it comes to the mixed direction, making these plays that go outside, and Georgia attacked it. Georgia did a reverse. I think people probably forget, but Georgia did a reverse, that broke free, if I'm not mistaken, with the Bell, the wide receiver. So that's something that Vanderbilt is undoubtedly going to do, but they're also going to spread their offense way more than they did on last season. If you guys have had an opportunity to watch some Vanderbilt highlights, go look at their highlights against Utah State. There are times where they come out and it's like basically a 5 wide receiver set. Pavia is in an empty set. He's in the backfield by himself. That is not something that we saw a lot out of Vanderbilt last season. So this is a dangerous offense. Probably is the thing that is the most concerning when it comes to the Crimson Tide, because in my opinion, I think they have an advantage when it comes to Ryan Grubb's offense going up against Vanderbilt's defense. The game basically within the game is Kane Womack's defense versus Diego Pavia in the explosive now Vanderbilt offense, which could really be a cause of concern when it comes to the Crimson Tide.
I just wanted to kind of just add, like, to slow down the explosives, you got to make someone want to quit. Like, you have to kind of drill them over and over and over, and finally they're not going to want to do all this tricky stuff. They're going to try to do, they're trying to protect themselves more often. But Pavia is one of those type of quarterbacks that I believe if you're going to, you might need to get some people from Alabama teams 10 years ago if you're going to try to make him quit. So I think the explosives are going to be a threat always, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and that's kind of like the thing when you watch this Vanderbilt offense, that's like really, really different. And Mike McCord from Alabama wide receiver, who does some podcasts here with her on Touchdown Alabama's YouTube channel, he talked about how Vanderbilt is explosive and is different, something that we basically have never seen before. But when you take a look at this victory, and if take a look at this game. If the Crimson Tide can pull out a victory against the Vanderbilt Commodores, looking forward past this game, they have Missouri, they have LSU coming up. It's a very, very tough schedule when it comes to the Crimson Tide, looking forward heading in for the rest of the season. Heck, even Auburn, I feel like the offense is struggling, but Auburn's defense is really, really good. But looking forward after this game, I think the Crimson Tide, with a win here, in my opinion, I think it puts them in a great position to be right. They're in the SEC championship talk now because they won and they won against Georgia. They 1-0 and everything. But I think it really, really builds their confidence. I think this win will be, I ain't gonna say a bigger statement win in Georgia, but this win would put Alabama back firmly in the conversation of us saying, hey, is this the best team in college football? I think they jump forward back into that conversation with the Oregons and the Ohio States, those teams. I think with the win against Vanderbilt, I think it does that. But one thing I would want to ask you is kind of like an interesting point, is that I wonder what the perception would be when Alabama beats Vanderbilt. Because I think it's going to be, in my opinion, I think it's going to go either one or two ways. And something is telling me it's going to go the way this first way, in terms of Alabama beats Vanderbilt, then everybody pulls off Vanderbilt. Oh, you just beat Vanderbilt, and then Vanderbilt becomes Vanderbilt again. But of course, if Vanderbilt beats Alabama, okay, Vanderbilt is the best team. They beat Alabama and all these different things. In your opinion, what do you think the perception of this Alabama team will be if they were to beat Vanderbilt on this weekend?
I mean, I think you had it with the first thing that you said. I think that will be the perception. However, I do believe that Vanderbilt is going to beat somebody else big this year if they don't beat Alabama, because I do believe they play Texas, and Texas cannot struggle. The Arts cannot go out there and have one of these type of games, or else Vanderbilt's going to beat them. So that's why it doesn't necessarily bother me too much, because like I'm not going to try to do too much defending and say, oh, like Vanderbilt was really, because I believe that it's going to work out. So when the season is over, they're going to have some key wins that are going to support Alabama's resume, especially when it gets playoff time.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening too, and it's kind of like the tough SEC, because there are so many good teams in the SEC this year. Just looking at it from top to bottom, I think Mississippi State is a team that kind of surprising a lot of people. Of course, Alabama still has Tennessee coming up, so there's a lot, and I feel like this is kind of like one of those years we've talked about it, where NIL, transfer portal, you could point to any of these things and say like, yo, college football talent is more widespread than ever. There are so many teams who now have a legitimate chance of being competitive. And this is not more so looking over the Vanderbilt game, because Alabama cannot. But the game, I think a lot of us are going to kind of be saying like, yo, this is kind of like the sneaky game, the trap game is the Missouri game. And that's kind of like the game that I guess is next up in terms of the big games for Alabama. And that's kind of another thing that's kind of really interesting, that there's no real like breaks in right now. It's full go for the rest of the season. So that's another thing that really, really is interesting. But probably I'm going to ask you this too. I want to talk about the key matchups in this game, not more so offense, defense, but like matchups in terms of position groups versus position groups. I think you can go with so many different directions in this one. I think one to pay attention to in my mind will be special teams, because we talked about this. Talty, how will he look? Heck, this game could come down to a kick. Heck, it's not out of the realm to think this game could come down to a kick. I talked about Blake Dowd on our YouTube channel here this week. I think he had a great game punting the football. I think he can be a weapon in the punting game. So I think special teams is at least an area of this game to watch in terms of how close it could be. A field goal here, a field goal there. I think points are going to be at a premium in terms of, because I think this game could be a little bit more of a high scoring one. So special teams is one I would pay close attention to. Another one would be, because I feel like Alabama lost this battle by a long shot last season. Because I remember at one time, I went to the Vanderbilt game. It was one period of that game where Jahad Campbell and Deontay Lawson, they were talking and they're going back and forth. Then like right before the ball is snapped, Jahad Campbell shrugs his shoulder. Then Diago Pavia hits I want to say it's tight end or somebody out of the backfield right in the flat. Vanderbilt gets a crucial first down. So Alabama linebackers against Pavia and whatever he's doing when it comes to that shuffle pass, the read option, that is a battle that I'm going to be looking at, because they're going to have good communication to stop this offense. There's going to be times where I think Quay Russo always talked about it, where when he's saying like Alabama has improved, now guys are staying home. They're not over pursuing plays that are not for them. I think they're going to have to do that against Vanderbilt at times. And the tricky part about it is what I talked about earlier. Now Vanderbilt comes out in his 5 wide receiver set. Then he goes to these other sets. So now you're going to have to stay on your toes and really, really be more disciplined than ever. But before we close out, is there any particular matchup that you are going to be paying close attention to on this weekend?
Well, I think it has to do with the corners getting off blocks. It's got to do with, everything with them, like a Damani Jackson being able to set the edge. Just not whenever they string things out all the way to the numbers, you cannot get sent to the water cooler. You cannot pick the wrong side whenever you're shedding, and then you just mess up. You got to be able to have a guy like a Dijon Lee, which I saw in that fourth quarter when he absolutely blew that a play up for Georgia in the backfield that ended up forcing them to punt the football to Alabama. He absolutely, and he's a larger player than a Damani Jackson, but if you can get Dijon Lee on the field and if you can just have a little bit of improvement from Damani is what I'm looking at. Especially with the, I'm not sure what happened on that one Georgia touchdown where it looked like he kind of got caught staring in the backfield. I know there was a stun or a blitz. Yeah. Probably thought he had safety help. Maybe he didn't have safety help at all. He probably needed to, when you have a lot of the crowd noise, you maybe didn't hear the full call, like, hey, there's you're not gonna have any help. So I mean, I don't know. It's the communication, and then of course just Damani Jackson just setting edge, getting off blocks, but then not looking in the backfield and staring at the quarterback.
Yeah, sure. And just before we close out on that play, that was an interesting play because if you go back and look at that play, Alabama sits so many people, you'll wonder like, why would your quarterback think he has help, or why is his eyes in the back? It was really interesting. And Caden DeBoer went and talked to Kane Womack. So it could have been, like you said, the crowd noise or something. Of course, Georgia was on fit, so it may not have been a crowd noise, but it was a miscommunication somewhere because his eyes definitely were in the wrong place. And it was a very, very probably easiest touchdown of the night. For the Georgia Bulldogs. But yeah, we'll be looking at all those different things on this weekend when it comes to the Crimson Tide, taking on the Vanderbilt Commodores. As always, I'm Justice Smith. Today, joined by Matthew Mason, one of our talented team contributors and reporters here at Touchdown Alabama. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Subscribe to the notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. We'll be back with the Alabama Elite on Sunday after the Crimson Tide take on the Vanderbilt Commodores in Tuscaloosa.